Once again, to review, we are doing the final project based on whatever topic you select, and you're going to create a document from each of the applications we've learned about in class. You're going to do a Word document, an Excel document, an Access document, and a PowerPoint document. This particular video, is going to be about the PowerPoint. After you've selected your topic, you're going to look at the requirements for the PowerPoint. And in the video, I'm going to go through each of these steps just to demonstrate what it is you're going to be doing in that document. First, you open PowerPoint and you create a blank presentation. What I suggest you do, because we're going to name the file with the correct name at the end, because you're starting with a blank presentation. We're going to go through, and it says use a minimum of 10 slides. The simplest thing for you to do is to click the new slide button the appropriate number of times until you have 10 slides. Now, you're not limited to 10 slides. You can use more, but you really want to make sure that you don't create a presentation that's only 5 slides long. You'll probably get about 50% of your points that way because you won't be able to meet the requirements. At least not that one, and probably not the others. So once you've created your 10 slides, you click on the first slide, which by default is a title slide. The second slide, if you click on that one, is a title and content box slide. So we go back to the number 1 slide. It says select a design theme. Like you did with Word, you're going to select design, and there are a number of different designs you can select. Each one has its own appropriate colors and its own text styles associated with all of the objects that are on the slide. You won't select a different design for any particular slide. You're going to, because if you apply a different design, it applies that design to all of the slides. So as you scroll over them, you can see that it gives you a sample of what the title slide looks like. However, if you click on the title and content slide, you'll see that the title and content slide looks slightly different in some cases. So once you know what design you want, you simply click on that and you won't have to go back to that particular slide. I'm going to select this particular one. I'll go with this one. And then you also have the option of different variants that have different color backgrounds. Try to, and this is just a personal preference, try to avoid the red background because it does bother some people. I tend to stick to the blue background, but the other backgrounds are entirely optional and up to you. And you can select the fonts and things individually. And again, remember that this is going to apply to the entire slideshow, not just this one slide. So I've selected my design theme. And it says the first slide must be a title slide with your name, course, and section number. So I'm going to, and these objects, you can get rid of this design ideas box to maximize your workspace. Each one of these objects are individual. So there's a title, and you're going to add your title. And your subtitle. Remember that you have to add your course number and section number. And you click off of that and off of that, and you want to make sure that when you do the next step that you don't have any objects selected, because when you do that and you try to make changes, you will make changes to that object. So the next step tells you to add a picture of your face to the title slide. I've actually adapted my picture so I can do it more correctly. I'm going to get my pictures, which are in a folder on my desktop. And in this folder, I have saved a number of pictures that might be of use for this project, and a few pictures that aren't. But I'm going to first select the picture of my face. And the one thing you need to make sure of is you can just drag this around anywhere you like. Do not cover up your text. You need to be careful of that. Otherwise, you can resize it and put it anywhere that you prefer. You can crop it further if you like. There are styles that you can apply to it. Which tells you need to apply some kind of style. There are quick styles, and then there are additional styles of color and whatever you prefer to do with it. Then we move on to the other slides. Remember that the slideshow is going to be a visual interpretation of what you talked about in your Word document. So you've really written all the information already if you did Word first, as I generally suggest you do. For instance, it says in the Note Panes view, to add a slide note to a minimum of one slide. So you can click on Notes down here at the bottom. Opens the Notes pane view. These notes are just additional information, and they don't show up on the slideshow when you actually present. And you can put notes on any slides that you prefer. But each slide needs to have a slide title. And you can see there's also on this one, because it's a title and content box. Remember on the first one that we looked at, when we looked at it before we applied a design, the title box was at the top. Now on this particular design, the title box is at the bottom and the content box is at the top. So if you want to add a picture, you click the pictures and you can click on a picture and add it to your slide. The next step, it says to add a footer to the presentation. The header and footer area is either already at the top of your toolbar up in the insert area. Go to insert and then you can see it. It's a text object. So header and footer don't look exactly the same as when it is in Word. That's not just the top and the bottom of the slide. Header and footer are actually located in, again, specific areas of the slide based on the kind of slideshow or slide design you've applied to your slideshow. So you can add the date and time. You can add the slide number, and all of these will show you over here which object it's where on the slide it's actually locating that. So you want your date and the slide number on your slideshow. You can also add your name to each slide. And remember, just like in Word, the header and footer, really not like Word, but similar to Word. You can apply this to all your slides or only apply it to this particular slide. So you need to have at least one of the slides that has this. As for adding pictures, you have a couple of options. You can go out and locate pictures on the internet, right-click on them if that particular site allows that, and borrow them for the purpose of your presentation. You also can go to the pictures and online pictures, and it's going to tap into the Microsoft site for searching for graphics. Have to have at least 4 slides. I really suggest you have pictures on every slide. Remember, this is a visual interpretation. You're going to be displaying your effort. So you may be going to, you may be deciding to search for pictures of skiing. And you can use photographs that Bing returns to you for this, or you can use the graphics, the drawn graphics that they have. You can resize this. Remember that you need to control yourself a little bit. You have to have a slide title. You can add text to your picture. That applies only to the photo, or you can just leave that alone. And here we have our slide about skiing. Now you may want to go on with more slides about skiing. And I know that I have a picture of the ski lift, so I'm going to add a picture of the ski lift. I'm going to reduce the size of the picture because it's and you notice in this particular design it added the picture and then also still allows me to insert objects of other kinds next to that. Now this box right here, while you see it in the design view that we're in, that box will not show up on your slide unless you put something in it. When you actually present the slideshow, you won't see any of this unless there's actually objects added to it. Note that you can also add text. That's what that said right there at the top of that box. And it's going to be a defaulting to a bulleted list. And when you hit enter on a bulleted list, it automatically creates another bullet. So you can keep talking about the current topic that you're doing. Now, I will go ahead and make at least 2 bullets just so you can see what they're like. However, if you want to make a sub-bullet, that is a topic, remember, think about this as being like an outline. Here we have our topic in our bullet. If I hit the tab key after I've hit enter, it makes a sub-bullet, indented by one factor, and then I can type about and after you've typed that particular information, remember this little sub-bullet is related to the previous topic. And so by default, when you create a sub-bullet, you hit enter and it creates another sub-bullet. So you're still talking about the lift ticket prices and how they're created. And again, if you hit enter, it's automatically going to create another sub-bullet. If you want to create another new topic, kind of related to it, but not a subtopic, you can hit the Shift Tab key and it will go back. You also have controls for that up in the tools up at the top, but it's easier while your hands are on the keyboard to just go ahead and do it there. We'll move on to another slide, and this one you need to have your title, remember. Pictures, I believe I have a dog sled picture. I thought I did. have a dog. Snowmobiles Lodge. Unless I'm just missing it. I'll go back and I'll select online pictures. Doesn't seem to be coming up with dog sleds. If you go back to insert and you can go down to pictures and select the Bing pictures, and Microsoft wants to get your comments. And the same things apply to these pictures that apply to the other pictures we've inserted. We're going to insert a word art. Word art is essentially fancy text, and we're going to insert that as our title in this particular instance. So you want to select one that contrasts well enough with your background to be able to be seen. And you can format, if you just click on there, you get the pop-up toolbar. You can add shadows, reflections, glows, whatever you want to on your word art. You also have the ability to have text effects, including transforms, which allow you to make them almost unreadable. When you use a word art like this, you can use this as your title rather than adding a title down here, and you can actually delete this box. If you wish to. Or you can leave it in place. Again, it's not going to show up, but if you have to have a title and if you want to use your word art as your title, that's fine. I'm going to insert a sleigh ride picture. As you can see, I'm going to insert a smart art graphic. A smart art graphic is really a fancy way of creating a list. So you can select any one of the list or a cycle, a matrix, a pyramid, any of the objects you have here. Some of them also include having graphics in each individual one. And then you can type into your boxes. You do have to be able to spell. I'm going to jump down to talk about the text effects, entrance effects later on. I'm going to finish this demonstrating some of these. Create a table with a minimum of 2 columns and 2 rows. Now, if you've already finished your Excel spreadsheet, you can go back to that and get the data or the chart or whatever you'd like to use from your previous data. One of the advantages of an integrated package like Microsoft Office is objects can be used, or data and objects can be used for multiple applications. Here I've opened my final project with Microsoft Excel, and I'm going to copy this data, and then I'm going to and you have multiple paste options here for the way you want it to go in. I'm going to keep the formatting, and then I'm going to expand it a little bit because essentially this has become an object here in PowerPoint, and I'm going to increase the font size so it's a little more readable, because remember that when you're in Excel you're pretty close up to your object, to your data, but when you copy it out of there and paste it into a slide, remember that a slide is kind of the equivalent of a whole sheet of paper on its side, in landscape mode. So the objects that you insert tend to be a little smaller looking. Everything is there. So since it requires, you can actually create a chart, a table from scratch if you want to, or you can use the one that you've already done. If you were to do it from scratch, you simply click Insert a Table, you tell it how big you want it to be, and it inserts the table, and you can put whatever you want into the table. In this case, I'm going to go back to my Excel, and I'm going to insert the chart. Notice the difference between these two. Remember I told you the design is being applied to all the slides. So if you just insert it with this first icon, it uses the destination theme. That is the theme that's applied to PowerPoint. If you click it on the second icon, it uses the Excel theme. And so the colors come along with that. You can do it either way. And then you also have options of what you want it to look like if you'd prefer your chart to have a different appearance. But be careful, you still need to have the information in there. You have the ability to create a chart from scratch as well. But again, you don't have to if you've already done all of this in Excel. You can just simply copy it over. However many slides you have, remember that the last slide, as it says right here, must indicate that you're finished. One of the other things that you have to do, step number 13, you notice I skipped over that one, is to apply a gradient to the background. The background of these slides is completely customizable. You go to the design view, or the design tab, excuse me, and customize and click on format background. And now this particular design already has a gradient fill. So if your design has a gradient fill, you're going to need to apply something that makes it stand out so I can tell you did it. Otherwise, I'm not going to give you the credit for that. So you have a number of preset gradients. So you can apply one of those preset gradients by changing the color, and you can also lighten or darken your gradient fill. I strongly suggest you change the color like that, and you can change it to a different color if you wish. And I would strongly suggest you do that, because if I cannot see it, I'm not going to come back to you and say, oh, did you actually do that? So make sure that it's an obvious change. One of the other things that you can do is if you have a slide and you want to create a background picture rather than just using the default objects, you can click on the slide, go to, again, Design, Customize, Format Background, and you can actually add a picture and make that picture the background. Now, note that this is not taking a picture and making the picture cover the slide. I can't click on this background and move it around. If I had created a picture and just made it the size of the slide, which I can manually do, that would move around when I click on it. So you don't want to do that. If you do decide to put a background in one of your slides, you need to add the picture as a background through the Customize Background function. And you still have full use of the objects that are on that slide, although, it depends what you're trying to accomplish as far as that's concerned. Now, one of the other things that is required, step number 11, is you need to apply transitions. Transitions are when you actually have a special effect between one slide and another. You have a tool, a tab up here called Transitions. So I'm going to click on my first slide and click Transitions. Transitions, as I said, are special effects, and you'll be able to see it happen on my slide back here when I click on one. It actually demonstrates it for you. And you can customize your slideshow and apply a different transition to every slide. Or you can simply click right here and apply to all. You can put a transition on all the slides at one time. All your slides must have a transition, so this would be a simple and fast way to do that. Note that you can also add a sound to this, and the duration applies to the sound. So you can apply a sound to it. Some of the sounds are longer than others. But you don't have to apply sounds. The requirement is that you apply a transition to every slide. I'm going to go ahead and apply to all. And you'll notice that there's an indicator right here that shows that you have added a transition to the slide. I will know very quickly as I grade these whether or not your slides have transitions. That icon cannot be done any other way than by actually having a transition on your slide. And one of the other things that I told you I was going to leave till last is I'm going to add an entrance effect to at least one piece of text and one piece of clip art. So you have to have something on the slide already before you can do this. I will go ahead and use my title slide for this. You simply click on the slide, and then you click on animations. The tab says animations. If I click on the object, for instance, I will have my picture bounce onto the slide. I'll then apply an effect to my text, and you can see that my text also will come in with a special effect to sort of highlight it. Notice you have different kinds of effects. You have entrance effects, that's how the object shows up. You have emphasis effects. And it wasn't, you can see that it's just sort of flashing the text. That one probably is not as dramatic as some of them. The grow and shrink ones are pretty dramatic. So now I have applied and you can see what it looks like when this happens. If you have multiple animations applied to your text or to your objects on your slide. And every object on a slide can have an effect. When you're ready to see what your show looks like, you simply click on the slideshow button, and you can click it from the beginning and it'll just play through your entire slideshow. Now, because we don't have automatic timing set up, which is another step entirely, you will have to click your mouse or click something, a button on your keyboard, to be able to get all of these in there. Then the last step I'm going to do is I'm going to save my slideshow with the correct name. To find where you're going to put it. Remember, each file needs to be the same name, your last name, final project. And remember that you don't need to worry about overwriting the files. Each one is an individual application, so you'll have an Access file, a Word file, a PowerPoint file, and a Excel file. So in conclusion, I suggest you do the files in this order. Word first, then Excel, then Access. Again, you remember you can do Access itself if you have a PC, or you can, if you have a Mac, you'll have to do the individual Word file that simulates the data you're going to put in Access, or would put in Access, and then of course your PowerPoint. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.